How do you make a great bike? I've often wondered that. How do bike companies do it from the ground up? Is it a lightning bolt idea, a few sketches on a piece of paper, and then you call up the engineers? And ultimately, how do you make sure it's a good bike? A bike that gets people excited to ride, and a bike that performs. And I'm here in the Basque Country, Spain, a mountainous region covered in forests and trails, the perfect place to design, test and build a mountain bike. And I'm going to delve into exactly that. I'm going to go to the Orbea factory, see a brand new cross-country bike born in front of my eyes, the Orbea Oiz, or Oiz, if you want to pronounce it without the English accent. And I'm here at the factory to see where they build the Oiz, the bike that Orbea say is built to fly, and the fastest cross-country bike to leave this factory in the last 180 years. And here it is, and here I am, stood on top of Ooyy, the mountain it's named after. This is a 120mm travel bike, which is fast replacing 100mm as a standard for cross-country race machines. Orbea say this is not a down-country or trail bike. This is a 120mm cross-country race machine, and it's designed around that travel from the start, no compromises. That also means there's no longer the TR version, the old, longer travel version of this bike. It's got modern geometry, but make no mistake, this is still a super focused cross-country bike. 120mm travel might be more than you might expect from a cross-country bike, but actually it's got a low stack on the head tube, it's got a steep seat angle, puts you up front in that aggressive cross-country position. Longer reach than the outgoing Ooyy, designed around using 60 to 90mm stems, so much shorter than you would have seen on cross-country bikes just a few years ago. And that does give you much more confidence and control in the tech riding. The slacker 67-degree head angle and the longer reach give you stability and the room to throw this bike around. 120mm fork up front, but now we're up to a 34, which is larger. You normally expect a 32mm stanchion fork on the front of these types of bikes, but it's stiff and precise with a weight gain of less than an energy bar over those smaller forks. The new Ooyy is an evolution of the already successful model, but 120mm of travel is a bold statement and shows just what the Orbea engineers think this bike is capable of. All right, so here I am in the factory, and actually let's take a look at the 2018 model, the last Orbea Oiz. So this has the 32mm fork on it, so Orbea moved up to the 34, and they knew that there was no compromise on a 120 bike as long as it's the same weight as 100mm. So then they move on to prototypes. You can see a couple of well-used prototypes here with actually alloy front ends on them. And they're testing out different kinematics on the shocks, different chainstay lengths to come up with the sizes of what they want. Basically, they've settled on a 76.5 seat angle, so pretty steep, 67 head angle, and a 450mm reach on the medium frame. There seems to be a real ambition in the Orbea team to make the most capable, fastest cross-country bike they can, not only for their pro riders, but also for the super fast amateur riders within the factory, one of which is Ander, the cross-country product manager.
So we come from a good platform. So we select some areas that we could improve. We could improve the kinematics for 120 meters of travel, improve the efficiency, like working on the stiffness of the rear triangle. And we work also to have a bike more beautiful and with its tidy and organized cockpit that have all the cables go through the headset to have like a fully integration view. We already test this concept with some prototypes using our own and inside development team and also the pro riders to check the difference between the current bike and the new one. Our option to go with a more capable and also keep the efficiency and as light as the current Oiz was is clear to go with 120 at the new demands of cross-country, not just on the World Cup, also on the field and for the conventional riders' needs, and want like a bike that is going to face even more challenging terrain than before.
Orbea know that the sort of stiffness of the lower part of the frame is really important for power transfer from the cranks to the rear wheel. They've even increased the size of the drive side bearing on that lower pivot there. But one of the more subtle changes you might not notice to this new frame is actually the sort of cross-section of the seat stay. They went through 5 different iterations of this through 3D printing and different carbon layups. You'll see it kind of changes from sort of vertical cross-section to horizontal to get that increase in stiffness they were looking for. You can even see on the new fiber link, it's a bit kind of chunkier and actually runs that really wide bearing. It's got 2 sets of ball bearings in there, so it's really important. They wanted to improve that stiffness. It's actually heavier than the old fiber link, but they've saved that weight elsewhere. Just knowing that stiffness is really important. You might think that the 120 mil of travel almost starts to go towards a trail bike, but actually a really important part of this package is making sure that the kinematics make sure that this is still a really fast race cross-country bike. It's got a level of anti-rise that keeps the suspension active under braking, but with high anti-squat and a slightly regressive suspension curve that helps resist pedal input at the start of the travel. Bikes come with a neat, invisible frame protection and that chainstay cover. You've also got this spin block up here that stops the handlebars from spinning, over-rotating, and those levers from potentially damaging the top tube. You've got that squid lock 3-position lockout that goes from fully open, somewhere in the middle, to fully locked. Also with that sort of integrated eye line, so basically you can't see that cable at all that goes to the rear shock. Also invisible internal cable routing that goes through that headset to the rear end. It goes through these tubes, so you literally can't see it from front to the rear end, and you have this foam fender as well to keep any water from getting down into that lower linkage. New from Orbea actually are these Ooyy wheels. So they're laced on Sapim spokes on DT Swiss hubs, but they are sort of asymmetric rims, also with different profiles front and rear. We've got alloy and we've got carbon. On these carbon ones here, we've actually got a deeper rim profile and wider external on that rear rim to take those rock impacts, but same internal width, so you get that same tyre profile. You may have seen Orbea's OC components before, but there's a new stem to come with this bike as well, available in 60, 75 and 90 mil lengths. It also has that sort of indentation that makes that spin block system work. You can run an aftermarket stem if you like, it's a kit to come with that. And actually, really interesting, you've got these stem spacers that split in two, so you don't need to mess around with that cable setup if you want to adjust your stack height. And you can even choose a slammed stem in that cross-country race style in that Myo system if you want your bike to come standard and ready to roll, completely race ready. Orbea's Myo customization gives you millions of options for making your bike unique. You can choose how your bike is sprayed in-house, loads of colour options for different parts of your bike at no extra charge. Myo also lets you pick the components to suit you, from stem length and stack height to upgrading components if you want to get a unique bike just as you want it. I've been lucky enough to ride the real top level OMX framed Ooyys, but you've also got the more pocket friendly OMR carbon version. And also down at that other end of the OMX, you have the Hydro. So this is aluminium with that high polished finish. So the new Orbea Oiz certainly looks the part and is 120mm of travel the new standard for the fastest cross-country race machines. And does that make them more desirable for the everyday rider as well? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.